Hello everyone, today I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide on how to change your cam follower for EA113 2-litre engines. Start by removing the number 5 spline, securing the fuel line and the 10mm nut for the fuel line bracket. This is to give you some more access when removing the pump. Remove the PCV plastic breather tube. This can be done by pinching the clips together at the end of the tubes. Carefully remove the breather valve's protective cap, making sure not to drop it into the engine bay. Grab some blue roll or cloth to catch the fuel released from the high pressure pump. Place a cloth over the Schrader valve and use a pick tool to open the valve, just like you would release air from a tire valve. The fuel in the pump is under pressure, so wear your PPE, including gloves and eye protection. Leave your cloth under the valve to catch any fuel, then undo the valve with a 13mm spanner. You could also place another cloth over the metal coolant line to prevent marking it. You could place the cap back onto the valve to prevent accidentally losing it. Normally, the 3 bolts holding the pump in place are Torx 30. If they've already been replaced, they're likely a 5mm or 6mm hex. At this point, we are only loosening them, not removing them. I'm also using an extension bar to clear the pump. I'm now unplugging the 2 electrical connectors. Remove them by pushing in the tab, and pushing the connector on you should feel or hear a click. Then, gently pull off the connector. Do not force anything. Using a 17mm Stubby spanner, we can now loosen the high-pressure fuel line nut. Once it's loose, you can spin it off by hand. Ensure not to drop the bolts into the engine bay. There is also a rubber fuel line to disconnect, which is held on by hose clamps. However, space is limited, so I'm avoiding that step in this video. We have just enough space to proceed without disconnecting it. Carefully remove the pump and pull it away from the engine. You'll have just enough room. Be mindful that the rubber fuel line is still connected. If you've removed the rubber fuel line, the pump will come off fully. You can now remove the follower for inspection or replacement. Replace the seal on the fuel pump before reassembling to avoid any unwanted leaks. When putting the follower back, apply some oil inside the follower and on the face of the follower to avoid a dry start. Now we can start reassembling. Before reinstalling the fuel pump, apply some oil to the fuel pump O-ring. Ensure the high pressure pipe underneath is lined up correctly. Now reinstall the 3 Torx 30 bolts. Start them by hand to avoid cross-threading and ensure there is no resistance when initially screwing them in. Tighten them all by hand first. When the pump is fully seated, then torque them to 10 Newton meters. Reconnect the 2 electrical connectors. They will click when fully seated. Support the male side of the connector with your other hand to avoid damaging it. Next, tighten the high-pressure line nut with a 17mm stubby spanner. Reinstall the fuel pump Schrader valve, being careful not to over-tighten. Now you can reinstall the Schrader valve protective cover, install the 10mm nut for the fuel line bracket, and then the M5 spline screw. Install the plastic breather hose. It will click when properly seated. Now recheck your work to ensure everything is installed correctly. Prime the system before starting by cycling the key on and off a few times. Insert the key, turn the ignition on, and listen for the fuel pump to prime. Turn the ignition off once the priming sound has stopped, and repeat the process. Thank you for watching. If this video has been useful to you, please leave a thumbs up.